backtrack and say that when I'm interviewed and people ask me what is the worst problem that I encounter when I work on people's screenplays, I will say unhesitatingly, and many of my colleagues will agree with me, I'm sure, that the main problem is a passive hero or heroine. And that means a person who is reacting to the situation in the story rather than someone who is actively trying to pursue something. And then the immediate question is asked is, well, in many movies, in the first act, the character is basically passive. And the answer is yes, that's true, but the way that you circumvent it is twofold. You give them a big dream, which maybe they're not that emotionally aware of, and you create a strong enough obstacle so that even a passive person is forced to react in an active way. In the same way that all of us, however nice we are, if we are cornered, we'll fight our way out of that corner. In other words, I don't care how nice you are, someone tries to smother you with a pillow, trust me, you're going to put up a fight. And in the same way, we can take a passive hero or heroine, and by creating a big enough pillow, to continue my image of smothering them, we can create a character who is active enough and has enough drive to go all the way through a 2-hour story. The example I want to use here is that many of the techniques that are taught about screenwriting, which is so structure-driven, are very much about getting the plot. And when they made North by Northwest, Ernest Lehman tells a story where he was invited into Hitchcock's office. And Hitchcock said, I don't really have a clear story in mind, or words to that effect. He said, but what I do have is I have all of these set pieces, which means a big, important sequence, from other movies that I have not ever been able to use. For example, I want a climax on Mount Rushmore. I want two people to have an affair on a train. I want someone to be put in a car and have to drive their way down a mountain totally drunk out of their minds. I want to see someone, yet another person, people in his movies are often framed for murder. And Ernest Lehman went off and wrote North by Northwest. Now, Ernest Lehman is Ernest Lehman, so he was able to create big characters to fill the spaces in between these various set pieces that Hitchcock wanted done. But too often, I read scripts that have, enough set pieces for 4 movies and cardboard characters who don't really change and feel their way through that. So what we're going to try to do is, if you know how to screenwrite and you're watching this because you're looking for a few new tricks, hopefully you'll find some. And if you're a new person and you would like to write a screenplay, hopefully I will teach you a basic method that will help you in all your writing, not just in this first screenplay that you're thinking of. So a few basics about screenwriting, again, that we cover on our website. You will have to write the screenplay in screenplay format. There are various programs, all of which are good. I don't espouse any in particular. I like them all. You will have to probably watch quite a lot of movies if you haven't, and start to think about things like who your audience would be, and what kind of time do you have, and their practical considerations. There are any number of format guides. And in terms of figuring out who your markets are, certainly the web is your friend. There are websites that will tell you how many movies sold. There are websites that tell you which pitches sold. There are movies that tell you all about the screenwriting conferences and competitions you can enter and who won them and why. So the web is your friend, and it's good to have a lot of information. However, I'm going to caution you that there is so much information, and there seems to be so much going on that it can be quite daunting. So the other alternative is you ignore all of this, and at least you get to a point where you structure the screenplay. So how to write a screenplay? Okay, well, the first thing you need is an idea. And I would like to define idea. Idea is many things, because idea can be I want to write a story about patriotism or around the Iraqi war. An idea can be I saw a woman stroking her cat leaning out of a window, and I can't forget that image, and I want to build a story around that character. An idea can be my father was a concentration camp survivor, and I want to write about that experience. I had a horrifying dream, and I think it would make a good movie. I heard a great story about how two people met, and I think it would make a great romantic comedy. There are any number. There's a story that I read as a child that I would always want to see as a movie, or I'd like to remake it. So whether or not you have an idea or you think you have an idea, we have many ideas all day long. The question is, are they commercial and are they quote-unquote good? So one thing I'm going to recommend between now and next week is that you make a list of your ideas, and that you try telling them to your friends or people you trust, and see if you get a response. And the kind of response you want is, oh, that's interesting, or oh, what a great idea. If people kind of go, really? Then maybe you need to work a little harder. So as I was saying, the number one problem that I work with is what I call passive hero syndrome, which is a movie about someone who's reacting to the movie events instead of driving them. But the second thing that I find, and I'm very sad to say this, is that people simply do not work hard enough at getting a good idea for a movie. There are a couple of people who talk about how to do high concept movies, which you've all heard that term. That's movies like Jaws or Big or whatever. There are a couple of people on the web who talk about high concept, and the reason that high concept is very good is because it forces you to be simple. So the idea that you have to work harder to get a good, simple idea that people can understand is really part of your job as a writer. But that's a place you arrive. The first step, in my opinion, and my whole writing method, is based on the idea that we want to work character first. So what I'd like you all to do is get the main character who might interest you to write a movie in, who is the star of a movie that you're watching this to rewrite, whatever character you want to use, a pretend character, or if you really aren't sure about what you might write about, you could just imagine your favorite wonderful male star that gives you the, makes your skin, I don't know, Hugh Jackman. I asked one of my students yesterday, okay, so you're on a desert island and you have to choose between Hugh Jackman and Johnny Depp. And there was a tremendous silence, and she said, well, if I had to choose, I probably would go with Johnny Depp, but you could just put me on the desert island with Hugh Jackman and that would be fine. And so the idea that even if you're just playing with this, if you imagine that you're going to write a movie for your favorite movie actor, or if you love Meryl Streep like I do, you might consider the story that you're going to write is for her. Just mentally, the idea that you already imagined a movie should have already moved you, a lot further. Because part of the problem with teaching screenwriting is that people teach it as a writing exercise, and really, what you're doing is you're taking that movie that's in your head and you're putting it on paper. So, if we go to my book, The 4 Magic Questions of Screenwriting, we're going to now get to work. And if we go to the table of contents, you can see there's an introduction. There's a breakdown of a film called Witness. There's an analysis of an explanation of what the 4 magic questions are, and then there's a chapter on each of the magic questions. And basically, we're going to work on one question per week. I'm going to ask you to do some homework. I'm going to ask you to watch the film Witness and to kind of try to get a sense about how it's broken up. And we'll talk about that in a minute. If we look at this diagram, which I'm going to hold up, hopefully you have this in front of you. It was part of the course fee, and if you don't have it for some reason, please be sure to get in touch with us, and we will make sure that you have it. And basically, here's how I like to teach screenwriting. You take your main character, whoever it is, whether you're pretending or you have one for your sure of, and if you don't know your main character and you know your villain, that works almost as well. And you're going to ask of yourself and the character 4 questions. The 4 magic questions are, what is my main character's dream? What is my main character's nightmare? Who or what would my main character die for? It could be figurative or literal. And the 4th question is, does my hero or heroine resolve their dream, or do they get a new one?